Hi, we're back, JLL Live from Disrupt CRE in New York. And as you can see, Mike's still with me, but we're going to talk about something a little different now than just tech tools and what they're doing in the buildings. We're going to talk a little bit more about smart buildings and the JLL program and what do we do for clients? Why do we have this? What's going on?
Right. So it's a great question, and it's a very needed practice that JLL has built inside the firm. There's so much activity, so many questions going on about IoT, right? Who isn't talking about IoT? But what does IoT really mean? Who's not talking about smart buildings and hasn't seen something in an industry magazine or read about it or seen it on TV, but what does it really mean? And I think that's the challenge that many of our clients have, is figuring out, how does this relate to our business?
Well, that's what I was just going to ask. What does it matter?
Right.
Which kinds of our clients care?
Well, I think this can have an impact on any of our clients, but the benefit of smart buildings really comes back down to 3 or 4 or 5 main areas. Number one would be around reducing operating costs and efficiency, increasing efficiency. 2, making the occupant experience much better. 3, increasing the safety and security of the people and the property. And then 4 is really helping to create and reinforce the company's brand. So imagine that you're a tech company and you are pulling people into your organization, and your facility is looks like a 1960s build.
Yeah.
That doesn't represent your brand. So an important part of this is creating a space that reinforces what you're up to.
Talk to me about that brand piece of it. How does IoT, or Internet of Things, right? How does that affect someone's brand?
Well, if you're in the business of making chips or routers or network gear, all of that can be represented in your building, right? It's part and parcel to a smart building, so they want to showcase that. It's also important to your brand in terms of recruiting and attracting new employees. So we've got the baby boomers moving on. We've got not enough people to backfill for them.
Yeah.
There's competition for the new graduates that are coming out of school. So having a facility that is an engaging place to work, a fun place to work, is sometimes going to be the differentiator between this place or the place down the block.
So let's take a step back, if you don't mind. I've got a couple stats here for you.
Okay.
So according to Gartner, by 2020, the number of devices connected to the internet is going to exceed 20 billion.
Right.
And it's something like, I don't know, a bunch of quintillion bytes per day today that are being generated in terms of information. I don't even know what a quintillion is, but I mean, come on, it's a lot, right? And so what is all that information? What types of information are we getting through when we talk about commercial real estate?
Yeah, it's everything, right? It's are the lights on or off in the space? Is the temperature, what is the temperature in the space? What is the set point for the temperature supposed to be in this space? How many people are in this room?
Right.
Is this room reserved? Is it, when is the room reservation going to end? All of that information is coming back from systems. Now, some of that information is siloed and contained within the lighting system or the room reservation system or the HVAC system. Our challenge is to make the connections that allow that information to really become important and have value. So, normalizing the data, gathering it up, turning it into actionable information is really important, and it's challenging.
And what do they do? What kind of actions can people take?
Well, so as a great example, so if you and I are in this conference room, and our reservation is from now until the top of the hour, and how often haven't it been the case where somebody comes and knocks on the door and pokes the door open and, are you guys done yet? Wouldn't it be great if the lights could just simply dim and then come back up again 5 minutes or 15 minutes before the next reservation is up, so that we know, hey, it's time to wrap up that meeting.
Right.
It's a very simple application, but another great example is if I come to Chicago and I want to know, are you in the building today or not? Because we had a great meeting here today in New York. I want to touch base. Wouldn't it be great if I could use a cell phone app to find out whether you're in the building or not? And then if you are, where are you? And can we find a meeting room to meet in? All of that information is in different silos, and we need to find a way to bring it back up, organize it, put it together for good use.
And so if I'm a tenant and I've got space and I want to look at all this information, what kinds of decisions can I make on how to change my space?
Wow. So the sky's the limit on that one. I spoke with a client about 3 weeks ago who said they're looking at the space occupancy and they're looking at the real-time energy prices to determine what pieces of equipment they should run today. Should they run an electric-fired chiller? Should they run a gas-fired chiller based on the space utilization and the price of energy? Now, can you imagine doing that in a real-time environment? It's very difficult for them, and part of the reason that they were talking to us is try to figure out how to make it easier to do.
Did you come up with a way?
We're working on it.
Very nice. And what about things that affect the employees directly? Like, for example, heat maps, right?
Yeah.
So if we're tracking traffic patterns and things like that, so what? What are people going to do with that?
Well, it comes a couple of different ways that could impact the occupant. First and foremost, they could say, look, I'm not comfortable right now, so can I tell somebody about that? And we heard before the number of hot and cold complaints that happened, and it's a telephone call to somebody, and are they really going to do anything about it? Instead, we can use a cell phone to indicate I'm warm or I'm cold, and then something can be done automatically. So that's helpful. I think the other things that tie back into end users, let's make it fun for them. We talked this afternoon about how do we get employees to be a part of this ecosystem of the technology. Some of them may not want their employer to know if they're in the building, or did they leave to go take a break, or did they go to the bathroom? Okay, valid questions, right? But if
they're
we can
watching
also,
us everywhere.
Right. But if we can also bring value to the employees in the building by bringing information to them that's important, like, hey, you know what? I like to be in a cooler environment. The southwest corner of the building is cooler today. That's the place where I'm going to go and hang out. Or I'm thinking about going down to lunch. How long is the line in the cafeteria? Can I get that information? Or it's the end of the day, I'm going to go to the fitness center and work out. Are there any treadmills open right now? Or should I finish some more emails? Should I finish some more emails before I go to the fitness center? That information is rather helpful to occupants. And gathering up that presence detection, that utilization information, that temperature information is super useful to the building owner and manager.
Do privacy concerns come in? I mean, when we were talking about energy consumption, okay, maybe not so much, but now we're talking about who's on a treadmill, who's in the building, who's not in the building. So, how does all that factor in?
Right. So I think
I don't know how I feel about it.
There's two ways to look at it, and the first one is simply anonymous information, and all of that can be kept can be kept anonymous. Is someone on the treadmill? Yes or no, and we can do that through presence detection. On the other hand, if I want to know, are you in the building today, then I need to know not that someone is in the building, but that you in particular are in the building. And the only way that happens practically is for you to opt in. So you have the choice to say, I want to allow others to see that I'm in the building today, or not. So I think it's clearly going to be an issue, not only with the types of things we're talking about, but so many more of the personal privacy issues that are going on a daily basis. And frankly, people give up a lot more privacy using Facebook and LinkedIn and other things than they do in the types of building applications that we're talking about.
Right. And do you see this more on the tenant side or on the landlord side, or it just applies to everyone no matter what?
I think on the owner-occupied side, this has even more value. When you're on the market side of the business, it still has value because it can differentiate your space from somebody else's. But
when you say the market side of the business, you mean the owner of the building?
The REITs and the leased spaces, right? The multi-tenant spaces. But on the owner-occupied side, when it's your people in the building and you're talking about their productivity and your costs at the end of the day and your ability to retain and attract and increase employee engagement, that's huge. So I think that's where it happens first. And the more of those examples that we can show and demonstrate, the more it will be an expectation across the board.
And are you starting to see that in certain areas?
Yeah, we have more business than we can, practically keep up with right now from people who are saying, we want to learn more, we need to learn more, we need to know how to, take this idea of IoT and smart buildings and turn it into a strategy.
Gotcha. Well, I love this stuff. I'm really fascinated by like the heat maps and privacy aside, I think it's all really cool stuff and it is making a difference. So I'm glad that you're part of JLL and that you're focusing on it for our clients.
That's
so
great.
Thank you for being here
Pleasure
with us
to be
today.
here. All right.
Thanks,
you.
Mike.